Good afternoon. Welcome to the USJI seminars on biomass-based energy use after March 2011. Since the establishment of the US-Japan Research Institute in March 2009, we have continuously held the USJI Week twice a year, usually in February and in September. And also we have conducted monthly seminars on various topics concerning recent Japanese politics, economy, society, culture, and so on. The USJI encouraged policy-related research within Japanese academics and try to introduce policy-implied research results to wider American audience here in Washington, D.C. In Japanese saying, Ishi no ue ni mo 3 年, if I translate it literally, sitting on the rock for 3 years brings some success. And so I'm pleased to say that we have achieved a limited success in spite of small budget. And so the people both in the US and Japan recognize and appreciate the existence of the USJI. I would like to thank all the people who gave us advice and help and participated actively. We have some chance to expand the number of participating universities and to receive financial support from Japan and the US, United States companies and peoples. By strengthening our effort to increase participating universities and to raise funds, we will be able to attain much stable situation and contribute to the mutual understanding and friendship between the United States and Japan. And we expect your positive participation to our activities this week. This week, from Monday to Thursday, we have seminars on several interesting issues. And on Friday, with the cooperation of JSP, Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, we'll have one-day seminars on risk management from natural disaster to economy. I would like to ask your active participation. Then I would like to introduce Professor Genman. He is a moderator of seminar on biomass-based energy use after March 2011. Professor Genman.
I'll be moderating this session. This is the first event of the USJI Week. I hope that I will have active discussions on this biomass-based energy issue. Already in January there was a session, and then also energy policy issues about, especially the case of Japan, have been discussed in some occasions for the USJI seminar series. And then this time we are really dealing with the alternative source of energy. Biomass-based energy is one of the options that Japan could choose to pick up. And then US has some experience with the promotion of biomass-based energy production. So we'd like to learn from the lessons from the US, and then we hope to really come up with some policy suggestions regarding the future use of biomass-based energy production. And today we have distinguished guests. Dr. Yamaguchi of the Institute of Energy Economics. He'll make a presentation of the bioenergy production and use in Japan and Asia after March 2011, how things have been changed in this area of alternative energy in Japan and the US will be discussed. And then later, Professor Tiffany of the University of Minnesota will present US perspective arguments concerning greater use of biomass energy in Japan. And then after these two presentations, our discussant today, Dr. Fugli of the Economic Research Service of the United States, U.S. Department of Agriculture will make comments and then present his own perspectives on this alternative energy use. Thank you. And then I might ask Dr. Simler Tokos of the International Food Policy Research Institute later to make her also comment from the floor later. So thank you. Without delay, I'd like to ask Dr. Yamaguchi to make his own presentations on bioenergy production and use in Japan and Asia, the impacts of March 2011. The floor is yours. And then 40 minutes presentation will be appreciated.
Thank you very much. My name is Kaoru Yamaguchi, and thank you for your introduction, Dr. Gemma. I just want to maybe may I stand up and thank you. Okay, I'm from the Institute of Energy Economics. Actually, I'm in charge of new and renewable energy in our institute. And before I start, I just want to say some background and what is happening in Asia. Actually, from the point of Japan, the matter of Asia is energy security, and it is something to reduce the importation of oil from Middle East, and reduce the consumption of the oil as a whole in a region. And for the past 5 or 6 years, actually, I'm involved in some capacity building to promote biofuel actually in Asia and the utilization of biomass. Actually, this is the case that when around 2007, 2006, 2007, you remember the crude oil price exceeded $100, and everybody get crazy what we should do, and especially it was in Asia, that is the Philippines and Thailand, who are importing a lot of crude oils, and what you say, the balance of the budget, the importation of crude oil is a very serious problem in that countries. They started to investigate the potential of the biofuel and the utilization of biomass. That is something that Asia became very serious about the utilization of the biofuel and biomass. And Japan is one of the countries that limited resources. We are trying to find the option to import the biofuel from these countries, also to increase the potential of domestic energy using biomass. So these are something the story that Japan was very serious about the utilization of the biomass through the crude oil prices hike in late 2000 maybe 2000 maybe 5, 6, 7 these years. Now these days, after the serious debate about the food versus energy, also sustainability criteria to utilize the biomass, something to use the biomass is a little bit bad things. So the boom a little bit go down, but the seriousness of the energy has actually increased. I mean, in Japan and everywhere in the world after the shock in Japan after the earthquakes. That is what my theme here. So I want to start. Okay, before look at what is happening in Japan, I just want to briefly look at the renewable energies and policies in Japan. And also, we want to go to the policies for bioenergy, and the reality means what I say mean reality. Reality is a little bit smaller than our expectation. And thirdly, impacts of March 11. Thirdly, this is the continuation of the past. And finally, I just want to briefly touch upon about the consequences and the Asian prospects. Okay. Firstly, renewable energy and policies in Japan. Here is the summary message. Actually, I want to talk. Actually, nuclear power and renewables are the two pillars for energy security. Actually, in theory, this is the theory, nuclear power and renewables. This is the core of the Japan's energy policy since 1950s. We did not have the technology for the renewables, but imported technology, the nuclear power from United States, and our energy security for a long time depend on the nuclear power. But since 1970s, the first oil shock. Although our power demand is depend on nuclear power and natural gas and the oil and transportation sector for largely for the crude oils. The shock of the first oil shock was the first initiative to put light into the another pillar, I mean renewables. That is the point that we started to invest into the R&D of solar photovoltaic and geothermal and many other potential for the renewables. And that is the theory. However, the cost advantage of nuclear power has been overwhelming. Our actual utilization of renewable is very limited. And the reality is that the technologies for renewable are rather for a creation of new industry and stimulus for new technologies. So just I want to see briefly. Here, this is something the distribution of the power plants. The red point, this is the biomass power plants. Mostly, actually, although the points are large, but actually the actual size is small. Capacity is small. This is just to see the distribution. Currently, the biomass plant is distributed mostly to the close to the demand center, not yet diversified enough. And the center one is the solar, wind, geothermal. The green point, and maybe you can see they are distributed along the coastlines. And this is the point. This is the place that the construction cost is lower, and also the wind speed is higher compared to others. And something the orange spot is a geothermal, and something violet spot is the solar. But they are minimum, not so large. I mean, in terms of the industrial contribution to the Japan's power demand. And the right side is a nuclear power plant. Actually, what we had problem is okay. This is Fukushima nuclear power plant, and these are the areas that we suffered and we lost the power. But as you see, this nuclear power plant is diversified, and this is the core of the power supply in Japan for the stable supply for the moment, before 311. Okay, now we want to come back to the renewables. Actually, in Japan, the renewable energy is promoted in the name of new energy. Actually, new energy is a term put into the category for the policy purpose. We we define new energy like here. Small hydropower, geothermal, binary technology, photovoltaic, something like that. So we firstly define these kind of technology as new energy, and as a category in new energy, we put subsidies and special what to say, the loan, grant, and the policy assistance is prepared for this category. This is a Japanese way to promote renewables for a long time until now. Okay. So Japan is promoting renewable in the name of new energy to put policy focus. And something maybe just I need to mention. Ocean energy is not categorized in renewable, no, new energy. So unfortunately, ocean energy could not get the policy support. Maybe other countries could get. Maybe one comment that our government categorize new energy. New energy is something that technically not mature, but not so distant from commercialization. So they think the policy support could get fruits with minimum effort. But like a case of ocean energy, this technology is far away, so maybe to put money is a little bit too early. That is the concept behind this definition of new energy. Okay. Okay. Already I mentioned, but I just want to briefly review major laws and strategy for renewable energy in Japan. Actually, one is Sunshine Project. This is a long-term national project for the new technology. Especially, we focused on solar photovoltaic for a long time. And fortunately, we succeeded to what to say, put the real use of photovoltaic on the rooftop of residential rooftop. It was 1993 when the Sunshine Project was renewed as a new Sunshine Project. At this time, actually, you remember 1992, it was the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. Actually, these are the timing that the renewable became more important in terms of not only energy security, but also the what to say, prevention of global warming. So we become a little bit more serious since 1993 to put renewables. Okay. That is the story of 1990 from the 1970s to 1990, and the law concerning promotion of this is the 1980. Actually, this is the timing of a second oil shock, and this is the time we got a serious hike of energy prices, and the renewable became one of the serious alternatives to put into force. And finally, the late 1997, maybe you remember COP3 in Kyoto. At that time, new policy initiative like a Kyoto mechanism and another policy initiative was invented. And Japan was eager to promote new technology also, as well as the nuclear power to reduce and to prevent the increase of CO2 emission. That is the time of 1997. And actually, we realized after the COP3, our policy measures was not enough to achieve our Kyoto target. That is why we invented, prepared special measures law concerning the use of new energy bioelectric utility. This is the RPS law. That is maybe most of the states are utilizing. And after that, there is several measures coming: biomass Nippon strategy and new national strategy. Okay, but I want to explain in more details later. Okay, actually, it was 2002. We prepared the renewable portfolio standard to accelerate the introduction of renewable. But as we understand, the other countries like Germany, European like Germany, Spain, and also United States, and some Asian countries, they are getting very serious about renewables, and Japan actually was concentrated only PV and rooftop. While we are concentrated on the rooftop PV, Germany and Spain actually easily succeeded to surpassed Japan very easily using feed-in tariff. Actually, that was a little bit some shock to Japan. At the time, it is 2006 or 2007, Germany easily surpassed Japan, but Japan spent a lot of money to solar PV. So at the time, we are thinking what we are going to do next as the next step. Anyway, this kind of what you say some consideration, what we are going to do, which direction we should go, is something the controversial there in the committee of renewable, also the utility. Okay, and that is the timing that the new government we call Minchuto. Democratic Party of Japan. Actually, they are very eager to use the renewables. And as you know, this is a coincidence that Japan became very serious about feed-in tariff that Germany and many European countries are utilizing to accelerate the renewables. Okay. Okay, that is some background here. But at the same time, I just want to say something about Japan's motivation. It's the technology. One term, one representative term is a cool earth, innovative energy technology. Here, especially biofuel, bioenergy is expected to contribute to biofuel. Actually, not so much about the power at that time. I mean, in terms of innovative technology. Of course, we have cellulose, second generation or the third generation technology, but this is a little bit out of the big emphasis until we suffered from 311. Okay, then bioenergy. Actually, Japan is rich by bioresources. You remember, maybe I have to emphasize that Japan is covered by forest, nearly 70%. This is the highest level of the OECD countries and some other countries. So I say Japan is rich bioenergy resources. However, the expansion for the utilization for energy is very limited because the agriculture is highly valued and protected. And so far, the agriculture and forestry found a way to add value in energy sector to add value. Maybe this can be this is the area maybe you can give us some comment. Actually, as you know, whether bioenergy can be materialized or not is also depend on biomass itself can be utilized as a food or some other purpose, not only energy. So whether it can be used energy or some other purpose is depend on the economics and technology. So fortunately, unfortunately, the value of food and the energy is one use. The alternative use is food and others. The other use is very variable. So that is my understanding. So far, the conversion of bioenergy to energy is a little bit limited so far. Okay, so I just want to briefly look at the situation in Japan. Actually, availability of biomass is this is forest bushwood. This is tree thinning residue. This is agricultural residue. As you know, maybe here, northern part is is rich in forest, and tree thinning is a little bit more densely distributed here in southern part, and agriculture is actually is focused in this northeast area. Also this is too. Actually, this is the area that we suffered a lot from earthquakes, especially maybe this part. So this part. So this is something the key to our 311. Okay. Next one is the bioethanol. Actually, this is another topic, but I want to skip. This is a little bit. This is not big topic here in my presentation. Actually, just one comment is that I will mention later, but the impact of 311 is failure of nuclear power, and the impact is mostly to the power sector, and not for transportation itself. So the biofuel it's one of the products from bioenergy as a bioenergy, but our focus, our impact is much larger in terms of the power, not fuel. Okay, but I prepared this figure because Japan is also stipulated some obligation 2011 to use the biofuel. Okay. Next one, agriculture, abundant arable land and food self-sufficiency rate. Actually, abundant arable land. Actually, almost 8% of total arable land. Okay, and food sufficient. This shows that food sufficient rate is decreasing and decreasing, while we have abundant abundant land of 8%, and with this figure, something that we will conflict. We are losing self-sufficient rate of food. At the time, which way we should use our land for food, for energy? That is something that we conflict in Japan when they, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Land, they have their own mission to protect and to think about. So this is something the difficulty maybe many other countries face. Which policy, which option we should prioritize. Okay. Okay. Now come back to biomass energy potential. Okay. Just a big picture. We have many options, but mostly already used. Something not used is sewage, wood waste, and this one the non-food part, agriculture, and also wood from the forest. So summary that maybe we still have a lot of potential from forest, but not so much from animal waste. Okay, so we have a potential from the forest. So what we are going to do? Okay, I just want to skip this biofuel. Okay, ethanol production. Okay, I just want to. So, what we are going to do? Actually, the message of the March 11. Actually, utilization of bioenergy in Japan has been limited, including those for power generation and for biofuels. Actually, I said that the forest still have the potential, but when we think about the biofuel, the second generation, the cellulosic technology has not yet materialized. So another option is to utilize for the power generation. And this is the field that we should investigate, or we should explore. The impacts of the March 11 is the awareness of the importance of renewable, with the loss of confidence to the security of nuclear power. Actually, it's not renewable, but it is a failure of nuclear power. That is the serious concern. And we could not have any other option but to utilize the renewable if we try to avoid the utilization of the fossil fuels like the natural gas. Okay. So in case of the bioenergy, the expansion is especially large in the land suffered from the tsunami. The most significant change is the realization that energy supply is a matter of local issue, and the bioenergy is one of the most promising options that local community can take account as their own asset. So this is the most important point I just want to emphasize. The nuclear power failure actually it forced us to think about renewables. At the same time, when we think about renewable, we do not have other option to think locally, and this is the point. Actually, many. I just want to skip all of this point because. I need to talk about the what is the basic change before and after 311. Actually, before 311, the one with the most important policy initiative is the basic plan on the promotion of the utilization of biomass. This is just before 1 year before 2010 December. This is the cabinet decision of target of 2020, 26 million carbon ton of biomass we want to utilize. So the plan is, this is just an example that they are thinking about. The sewage, this is biogas plan 77% to 85%. Food waste, also this is to utilize for the biogas, 27% to 40%. Agricultural residue, mostly for the power generation, 30 to almost the same, 30%. The forest residue, this is from 0 to 30%. As you can find, the forest residue, the utilization of the forest is the most important resources in basic plan on promotion of utilization of biomass. And at the same time, they want to create a new industry. This is about 500 billion Japanese yen. It's the 4 billion US dollar. So we suddenly had the 311. Actually, I just want to tell you the sad story. Actually, this is the basic plan on the promotion of the utilization of biomass. This is the plan, mostly from the Ministry of Agriculture, and they prepared a lot of the budget, and they put a lot of money for the so-called biomass town project. We wanted to have not self-sufficient, something what to say, renewable-based, self-sufficiency oriented biomass town. Based on agricultural products. That is what the Ministry of Agriculture intended. And several hundreds of biomass towns was prepared and subsidized. But from the investigation of Ministry of International Affairs, they found that mostly failed. And realizing that reality, the 3.11 actually put the fire. We should be more serious about the realization of this kind of approach. So the answer is something here. Revitalization of Japan basic strategy. This is not only energy but also the economy and the society. This is the fundamental plan. But the one of the element is the revitalization of Japan's food, agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. Actually, this is the concept of smart village. So the concept of the biomass town is actually revisited and enhanced through this strategy. And last month, it is a biomass commercialization team, actually newly organized, and they are now trying to stipulate and preparing the scenario to realize the real economically feasible biomass scenario for the future. Okay. At the same time, feed-in tariff. This is the August 2011. It is announced to start from 2012 September. Sorry, not September. July. Sorry, not September. This is 2012 July. Actually, this feed-in tariff is now seriously discussion, and the actual design is in progress. How much we should pay for the biomass? Actually, this is the something that we want to learn from maybe United States or the Germany, because in case of Germany, CHP is very popular, and it is also they also succeeded to vitalize the agriculture. I mean the villages using feed-in tariff. Also, here United States, maybe you have the RPS and some other mechanisms to vitalize. So that is the point that maybe we want to learn. Okay. Okay. One of the strategy what they are doing after the 3.11. It is the initiative for the commercialization of the biomass. I take this as an example. Strategy for the commercialization of biomass by interministerial team, actually interministerial evaluation of current initiatives and progress. As I said, actually the energy policy in Japan is mostly led by Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry for a long time, including nuclear power. But when we think about the renewable, it is a distributed energy. And the involvement of the local community is a must, and it is so. If once we want to try to get involved the local people, it is also the matter of another ministry. And also, if we want to utilize the renewable like water, wind, sun, biomass. This is completely different from the how to say the mission or the territory of Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. This is more or less related to Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of I don't know. Actually, here I have Ministry of Agriculture. Actually, there is their own expertise. This is based on needs of interministerial policies. 7 related ministries and offices: Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Land, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Education, Ministry of International Affairs, Communication, and also Cabinet Office. They have their own role to integrate the biomass policy to realize the biomass. So it was 2010 when they stipulated the needs of biomass, but it is only after 311 to really get together to commercialize, to get together to streamline their effort and and to get the actual output. So the target is here. Utilization of domestic biomass 26 million carbon ton and creation of new industry of $4 billion US and planning of biomass promotion plan for 600 local communities. This is one of the what they say impact and the seriousness that Japan is now trying to put forward. Okay, here the impacts. Japan as a whole, actually importance of renewable energy as an alternative to nuclear power. The focus is power rather than heat. Therefore, the option of biomass is one of many options. Including solar, wind, small hydro, and geothermal. But northeast region, as we see, there is the agriculture area and also the forest area. The northeast Japan is the region of agriculture. And the climate is cool with strong demand for heat. So revitalization of the area depends on the agriculture and forestry. And biomass is the key for the area to contribute to the energy supply. Actually, this is some planning for the utilization of the heat. And the many area actually the planning area is the northern part of Japan. So this is something the hope this is happening after 311. Okay. So what is the impact of the Asia? Actually, the message: Asia is rich in bioenergy resources. Actually, Japan is also endowed with the forest and the bioenergy. Actually, Asia in general is also rich in biomass. But so the experience in Japan could accelerate the development for bioenergy in Asia. But maybe Europeans and maybe some other environmentalists were very cautious about the promotion of biomass in Asia because of the mal impact to the environment. That is why maybe we need to be careful to develop biomass together with our Asian friends. Let's see. Actually, outlook of power supply potential for energy crops. This is the case of Asia. Actually, example: top 20 countries of production of potential crops for biofuel. Actually, here usable for ethanol production, sugarcane, cassava, corn. This is the biodiesel, palm oil, rapeseed, soy oil. Let's see. So, what is the share of Asia? For the sugarcane, 38%, cassava, 29%, corn, 27%. For the biodiesel, almost palm oil is almost 90%, and rapeseed 43%, soy oil 12%. So actually, Japan and actually Asia is very rich and endowed with this kind of the resources as for the energy crops. So definitely Asia will be happy to cooperate with Japan for the promotion of bioenergy. At the same time, it will be also a very serious issue how we are going to do with the environment and the food issues. Okay, this is my concluding remarks that the promotion of bioenergy is not it's the option, but does not necessarily make everybody happy. Okay, we have to be very careful. That is my message. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yamaguchi, for your comprehensive assessment of the changes taking place in Japan and the implication to Asian situations. Okay, Professor Tiffany, you'll be standing over there to make presentations.
pretty well from here, good. How's that? All right, thank you. And thanks to the hosts here, US-Japan Research Institute. I appreciate this opportunity, and I recognize that this discussion today, as a result of some pain and some suffering suffered in Japan, and I'm sorry to hear about that. This has been a very interesting topic for me, and it makes me reflective on the opportunities we have in the U.S. to utilize biomass, and it's something I've worked on for a few years. So I'll share a few of my perspectives on what Japan is trying to do. And I must say, these are very bold steps that Japan is proposing, and I find them quite fascinating. So I will talk about some of my work and some of the things I would see around North America. And so in a way, you can think about my talk as a little bit of a bus tour. So we'll all jump on a bus together, and we'll look at a couple places in the US and in Canada. And I'll also review what I've tried to learn about Japan and try to square that with our previous speaker. So anyway, I will be talking about combined heat and power and biomass integrated combined cycle. These are two very efficient ways of getting more out of biomass by producing thermal energy as well as electricity. I'll talk about district heating. My previous speaker, Mr. Yamaguchi, talked about these proposals for some areas of Japan, and I think they may have some good opportunities for success. I'll talk about some new work I've done over the past couple of years on torrefaction, which is a way to make biomass a more uniform fuel that can be compatible and mixed with coal. So it could be blended into existing power plants, and it would be a way to make that energy of a coal plant a greener source of electricity. And then I'll talk about a new business arrangement called Power Islands, and that would be to have an organization or have two entities work together. One that would be releasing the power and handling that power plant, and then there would be a recipient agent organization or a company that would be using some steam or some heat. So anyway, in reviewing Japan, like our previous speaker, there's a very small slice of utilization that is in this area of biofuels and waste. And it's a very small slice of their primary energy supply. And you can see the heavy reliance on natural gas, nuclear, and of course, petroleum, of course, for personal transportation. Now, I found this particular graph from IEA very interesting, and I drew some lines on it to show the switchover that occurred in the early 80s from as much petroleum to more use of nuclear power and natural gas to replace that petroleum. And this was a very sound move across Japan, and there was efficiency gathered from it, using less petroleum to generate power in particulars. And of course, this also emphasizes what becomes of this slice that is the nuclear power portion that has been significant. This particular graph shows it another way. It shows that the biomass is just this very small sliver, 0.83 of 1% of this energy. So, also, it comes to my attention that Japan is the largest importer of coal and liquefied natural gas. Japan has been on the forefront of this technology of liquefied natural gas. It's been around for a while, but that's the place where it made economic sense. The ships were built, the infrastructure. So Japan has great experience in those facilities and the technology. And of course, as a nation with seafaring capabilities, that's been important all along. I will have some comparisons here with Korea as well in terms of some of the other figures I'll show you as we go along. But South Korea imports quite a bit of coal as well for steam and then for coking or in steel production. Now this is a graph, part of which was shown by Mr. Yamaguchi, and it does emphasize that there's very high utilization or reuse of biomass in Japan in terms of livestock waste and its sewage sludge, black liquor from paper production. The two that are showing that are much as Mr. Yamaguchi said, the amount of forest residue is largely unutilized at this point, and that may be a good opportunity. And in food waste, I think that we're talking primarily about straw of rice. And rice straw is a difficult biomass because silica is a big part of these fibers, and it forms some ash, which is a difficulty in boilers. So anyway, wood thinning may be a good choice, but you know what? I'm not the one to give you the best advice on that, but I would say local folks will have to make some judgments about that. Okay. But wood can be competitive with some other sources of energy. And of course, coal is very cheap, but then we can see wood pulp and wood pellets and where they stand in terms of the yen per kilowatt hours. So there's some competitiveness of biomass. This something I found pretty interesting, the comparison of electricity consumption in the countries as a whole. We see US, Japan, and South Korea. And you know, we see some population differences, some differences in industry. But then here we see things on a per capita basis. And Japan is very efficient in terms of the utilization of the individual and the household. And I expect that there could be much more of this efficiency realized in the US if some of the right incentives were put in place. So I just bring that to your attention. Here are some the information I gathered about the prices of household electricity. And Japan is much more expensive than the US and Korea through these years. And so the people of Japan are very thoughtful about what lights they have on and how they run their households. And here's the story of the industrial prices the businesses pay. And again, you can see that the Japanese industry are already paying this essentially 12 cents per kilowatt hour, whereas South Korea and the US are down here around 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So yet, you know, Japanese industry is competitive paying these higher prices. Now comes the bus tour. I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I see going on around North America. And this slide gives us a few examples of these. And we'll get into those in a little more detail. Now, as opposed to Japan, where you have primarily 75% of your biomass is represented as forest, in the US, it's just the other way. We have 75% of our biomass more in the area of agricultural. And the biggest source of biomass would be straws and corn stover in the Midwestern part of the country. And there's very low utilization of this portion of biomass in the US at this time. And these are also areas of the country that could grow quite a bit of some grasses, such as switchgrass or Indian grass. Some people are looking at miscanthus for areas more southern, say in Illinois and southern states. But anyway, we have a big continent to work with. Japan has a smaller land area and much more forest in proportion. So one of the projects I've worked on for 5 years has been using corn stover, this massive amount of biomass. And here's some equipment. We modeled the harvest and the utilization of it. And we looked at maybe the agricultural portion of it and then making this a real industrial scale biomass utilization at a plant. And we looked at making ethanol plants in addition to making biofuels out of corn, making electricity, and supplying the thermal energy that they're currently getting from natural gas from corn stover. This would be a way to make corn ethanol much more green in terms of its energy balance. And so this would require the harvest in a very intense period of time, 4 to 6 weeks in the autumn of the year, and then processing through the year at remote sites. So I'll just give you a little sense of this. There would be sites scattered around, and there would be a central processing facility, and there would be equipment like this that would grind this corn stover up into some smaller particles, and then it would go through a roll press compactor to bring its density up to 15 pounds a cubic foot. And this way, the large trucks could load out, and that's important in the transportation economics. It also aids in mechanical handling of this biomass. So that's what it looks like. It looks like a whole string of cigars in a way, but I don't advise it. But anyway, if you get full loads of biomass that way. Now, we've done some pretty careful study on what the costs would be, what a farmer might be willing to pay or be willing to receive, what he would need to be paid for the nutrients removed, and what all these steps in the process would take. But guess what? Not too much of this is happening at this time. Right now, the existing ethanol plants are very comfortable buying very cheap natural gas, and that's exactly what they're doing. This is something that I'm absolutely sure would work. We did some very careful engineering studies, and it would work out. It would make ethanol far greener than it is, but the money isn't there to do it. Here's the life cycle story. We're very careful about this in terms of looking at what are the greenhouse gas emissions for every step of the process in a life cycle fashion. And in fact, you can see the difference here in terms of grams of CO2 emitted per megajoule. See how it's just 8 for corn stover. For natural gas, it's 8-fold more. So there's a way that this ethanol process could be made better. And you can see what coal would be. So here's the concept of a power island. So that would be to make two businesses. One that would be a power plant and a steam generator that would accept either corn stover, or it could even use natural gas. It would could sell electricity to the grid. It could sell electricity to an ethanol plant where this fermentation would happen. But the major thing would be the sale of steam. And then a certain VOCs, which come off of the dryer, could be combusted at this plant. Some plants would choose to burn some syrup. So there could be this sort of symbiosis of two businesses. And there are some real advantages in terms of the tax laws for having this divided ownership, as well as some skill sets and abilities to raise funds. And so there are some large capital costs if you're going to be in the power business, but there's also some risks. It's necessary to have power purchase agreements to be able to sell this power. What you're talking about in Japan of having feed-in tariffs is exactly what is needed for these people to get their foot in the door and be able to sell that power. There are some state requirements for renewable energy standards, and those are important, but they're a state-by-state story. There's not a national uniform policy in that regard. And right now, this technology of using corn stover as an energy source to run ethanol plants will have a difficulty launching as long as natural gas prices are, cheaper than $10 a decatherm. And right now they're about 5. So in 2008, we saw natural gas being paid at these ethanol plants was over 12. So it was very competitive just a short time ago when we had much more expensive natural gas. Okay, maybe I've just said that, but I'll move along. But combined heat and power, of course, that's getting two things out of it. Getting that thermal energy and getting electricity. And Japan has done a lot of it, and Northern Europe has done a lot of combined heat and power, and it's a way to really get that efficiency. Unfortunately, so many of our coal-fired power plants in the U.S. get about 35% efficiency, and that's because they don't have any other use nearby for some of that rejected thermal energy. Okay, now I want to talk about use of energy. And this would be a city, and this is downtown St. Paul, the capital city of Minnesota. And here's a large biomass fuel facility, and this one relies primarily on biomass. And it not only heats the buildings, but it cools them in the summer months. And it produces this thermal load, and it produces the cooling capacity and also 25 megawatts of electricity. And it has been a very nice, successful project in a more northern climate. Here it is, right smack dab in downtown St. Paul. And it's a power plant, but it's not a nasty thing to have in a downtown area. It's working out pretty well. They bring in enough biomass for just a couple days, but here it is in the midst of a big city. And here's a picture of their water storage, because they use water as the medium to move this heat around or to cool the buildings. And again, 70% of the fuel is typically biomass, but they have the capability of using coal or natural gas as well. And they have all this stream of pipes. And so they have very low losses of heat by pushing water instead of pushing steam through the pipes. Then they have produced some very much cheaper prices than if someone had just been burning natural gas in this corresponding period of time. So they've had some good financial performance as well. So now I'm going to switch gears and take you up just across the border from Minnesota into Ontario. And here we see the Ontario Power is converting 6 power plants that have run on coal to different renewables. And one of them at Atikokan is switching over to using wood pellets. And so they're taking an existing coal-fired plant, they're repurposing it, and making some changes to the boiler, and that will run strictly on wood pellets. And this is a utility that has a very high amount of its capacity in nuclear and also in hydropower. So these are some things going to happen. They're going to have quite a bit of new development here on wood pellets, and it'll be quite clean, and they want to keep their existing assets going, but they don't have the biggest amount of coal in this company, and they're getting rid of what they have left. Okay, and there it shows this small slice, 2.7% of their capacity is going to go away to renewables. So that's probably might be instructive for my friends in Japan to study that one. And some of this is going to happen in this next year. So they're in 2011, 2013 as well. Now I want to talk about torrefaction and just a little bit, and that will be that this is a process of making biocoal. So we take biomass and refine it, heat it, roast it into what's called biocoal. And so that's a fuel that can make biomass very compatible with coal-fired power plants. And this roasting is just about like coffee roasting. Oxygen is excluded, and some of the volatile organic compounds are driven off. And you end up with brittle biomass, but biomass that can have a higher BTU density than coal. So very compatible in this process. And when it's completed, it is hydrophobic, so it can lay on the ground and get snowed on and rained on without degradation, which sometimes happens with wood pellets or wood chips. Again, the energy density is it's increased by 30%. So a lot of work has been done in the Netherlands, as well as some US companies. Maybe there's some companies in Japan that have worked on torrefaction, but I think it's a technology that may be attractive to consider as a way to blend in with your coal-fired power plants. This is a diagram of this process, which I'll let you study more at your leisure. There's a drying phase when some of these volatile organic compounds come off, and there could be steam sold to an existing business that's next door. And there's ways to fine-tune it to end up with different densities of the biomass, the bio-coal. So I've done some work to see what would be the conditions to make this a profitable business. What do you have to sell the bio-coal for? What price do you have to start off? How much money can be made from selling the steam? And what sort of incentives might be necessary in terms of reduction of greenhouse gases. Here's some of the economics work by looking at the different the raw biomass prices and then the sale prices of bio-coal. Those that are in green are profitable situations for that plant producing bio-coal. And this is a situation where you're starting off with something at 17% moisture. That's about the story of some wood can be that dry, and corn stover could be that dry. Grasses are typically drier. And here's the situation if you're unable to sell steam to an adjacent. So there's a smaller profitable area that right up here in green. You can see how much bigger it is here. You know, it's the same. If you can't sell that extra steam, it's tougher to make money at this. We have, of course, very cheap coal in the U.S. And in my home of Minnesota, it's typically $35 a ton for low sulfur coal, the steam coal that's used to produce power. Here in Washington, D.C., it's over $75. In New Jersey, it's over $100 per ton. In Japan, you're used to paying $100 per ton for coal. You pay even more for some Australian coal that's very nice coal. But here's the situation for, is it profitable for a power plant to use it? And here I look at what sorts of targets might be in play for reduction of CO2 and what would be the fees charged for those. And the green area, again, is advantage for a power utility to buy it. Here I say the bio-coal would be priced at $120 a ton, and a 30% blend, which has been tested quite often, has been examined. And then at $100, you know what, this technology is very acceptable and very attractive to coal-fired power plants. I worked with a colleague in Italy, and they're paying over $100 a ton for their steam coal. They're buying it from Indonesia, some from South Africa. And their power utilities just put in some brand new coal-fired power plants a few years ago and they're paying essentially carbon taxes because of their EU policies. So this technology will fit some places and it'll probably fit in Japan. So I guess these caps and CO2 fees are very important to it, as climate legislation is important. And I would emphasize this, and I think it's important at this point for Japan. The use of biomass to produce electricity can give us greater reductions in greenhouse gases than trying to produce biofuels to run in a car. And there have been a few studies of this. And in fact, I've done work on electric cars, and this is a very efficient way to convert energy to motion down the road. And so I would emphasize that in your deliberation. I expect that Japan can enhance their use of biomass, but it won't be easy. I think there are some more isolated communities, and the program your government is talking about, where it's emphasized in some smaller communities, I think may be very attractive. I think having a feed-in tariff and looking at the experience of the European countries is ideal, because there will be bidding occurring, and so people offering that power will bid for it. And it'll get cheaper as time goes on. I've talked to the people in Germany who have done this same thing with electricity. Yeah, there are probably some places that don't have natural gas pipelines, but have some biomass that's near at hand. And that could be good economic development for those rural areas that can do it. Perhaps Japan would even do well to sponsor torrefaction in other countries of Asia, where there would be a local entity that would be like a power island that would have some steam that it could utilize or use in a community, and then sell bio-coal to Japan for your own power plants. So there's some opportunities. I think the high price environment of Japan sets the stage, though, for some very nice innovation, and in the same way that I think your high fuel prices have set the stage for innovation in automotive technologies. And the cars and battery technologies in which Japan has a very great head start is partly a product of the high prices that have been encountered there. So with that, whoops, I guess my last slide is gone, but I want to thank you for that, and I'll be happy to entertain questions later.
Right, thank you very much. Later, we might ask Dr. Yamaguchi to evaluate the possibility of introducing this power islands concept, the use of wood pallets, and then possibility of also use of a bio-coal blend technology. How much extent that Japan could utilize this relatively energy efficient system of getting energy. So we might just discuss later. But now we have a pleasure of having a discussion. Dr. Figuri from the USJI Economic Research Service. He's an expert in environment and resource areas. With that today, I might ask him to give his own perspectives.
Okay. I did have a couple of slides. Are you able to call them up? Maybe if I could borrow that. Thanks. Stand over here like Doug did so I can see the screen.
Yeah, we didn't have your slides.
Oh, I
Oh, okay. Would you mind?
put it up.
Sure.
There's the top
Yes.
one there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here too with you. I would like to just reflect on some broad bioenergy themes and draw from particularly our experience with biofuel, where we have a lot of more empirical evidence on what some of the economic and environmental implications are, particularly from the U.S. experience. But I'm just going to be giving some of my own personal thoughts. Whatever I say here certainly doesn't reflect official USDA policy by any means. So first of all, as Dr. Yamaguchi pointed out, one of the major drivers of the interest in biofuel or bioenergy is energy security, to diversify energy resources, to get more national or local self-sufficiency in energy supply. Another interest, of course, has been environment, to move to renewables, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as a way of slowing global warming. And finally, and particularly if we draw on some of the material that Douglas presented, economics is becoming a major driver, is that with technological innovations, many biofuels are becoming very economical and price competitive with fossil fuels and other energy resources. And just to give you a picture of that, in respect to ethanol, here I've put together a rather messy chart, but it looks at the relative price movement of corn versus crude oil over the last 50 years. And so the corn price in inflation-adjusted dollars is shown in that blue line, and the crude oil price in the purple line, but the one to focus on is the heavy black line, which is the relative price of one to the other. And as that gets higher, corn is basically becoming relatively cheaper than crude oil. And what is behind that long-term trend are, first of all, in agricultural production, you've had major technological innovations that have raised productivity and at the same time facing a rather slowly growing market demand. And so that over time we've seen the price of agricultural commodities falling in real terms. At the same time, we have energy in very rapid demand in overall energy, especially transportation fuels, and also fewer and fewer major discoveries of cheaply accessible fossil energy supplies. So that resource has been becoming scarcer relative to many of the agricultural resources. Now that red line on top, that is a switching point in the United States in which, without any subsidy, it would become cheaper. Ethanol is a cheaper source of transportation fuel than gasoline. The dotted line is what the switching point was with a tax credit subsidy that the United States had in place until the end of last year. We've replaced that policy now with a renewable fuel standard that requires that every gallon of gasoline sold in the United States has about 10% ethanol mixed in with it. So, but we can see that the long-term trend, anyway, is that even in the absence of a subsidy program, agricultural products are becoming relatively more attractive as a source of transportation fuel. Now, the concerns about biofuels, and particularly with the tremendous growth over the last decade in the use of both ethanol and biodiesel, have been, first of all, its effect on food prices. The increased use of biofuel corresponded with a period of rising food prices around the world, and biofuel was one of the contributors, one major contributor, certainly not the only contributor to rising prices, but it has been identified as one factor. Higher food prices have also been shown to be a cause of, in many parts of the world, to rising poverty and malnutrition. Since 2005, real food prices have more than doubled in many, on average around the world, and there has been a significant growth, at least to the extent that we can estimate it, in the number of people falling below poverty line. But some rural areas have certainly benefited. Those areas and those farms that are net sellers of agricultural commodities have seen higher incomes from the higher prices. And if we look at rural China, for example, we've seen that rural poverty has basically disappeared in the last decade, whereas it has increased in places like South Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. Here in the United States, we're seeing record farm incomes because of the high prices that have been experienced in the past few years. And finally, there's been concerns about the effect on the environment. Now, on the one hand, biofuel as a renewable fuel is replacing and substituting for greenhouse gas emissions from fossil energy. On the other hand, if what you're doing is raising world prices, and if that is encouraging farmers to then go in and convert forests into cropland, you are seeing a big emission of greenhouse gases from that conversion process. And if you evaluate that under what Doug referred to as the life cycle, in which you look at the initial the initial big release of greenhouse gases from forest conversion and compare that to the gradual accumulation of savings during the period in which you're using the crops from that land as a substitute for fossil fuel, you'll find that if in fact biofuel policy through high prices is driving a lot of forest conversion, then that's not a very attractive policy. And there were some studies that showed that these land use conversion could be quite significant, although some more recent work has suggested that there's another factor going on. Those high prices also encourage farmers to raise yields on existing land, which, and so some of the pressure on forests then gets reduced. So that's an ongoing concern, and there's ongoing debate about how those things all factor out. But if we, this shows the growth of global biofuel production and consumption, both for ethanol and more recently biodiesel. We can see this tremendous growth in the late decade of the first decade of the 21st century. This is projected to continue to grow, but not as rapidly as we go out into the next decade. And if we extrapolate at least policy targets out to mid-century, anywhere from 6 to 25% of total global transportation fuel could come from biofuels. But the feasibility and the impact of those targets really depends critically on new technologies. The kind of technologies that the kinds of technologies that Doug described and Dr. Yamaguchi described reflected more on electrical generation and heat generation, but there are also a whole series of technologies that would need to come in place for expanding biofuel generation as well, such as second and third generation biofuels like cellulosic biofuel, bringing algae into algae biofuel and so forth. The rate at which those kinds of new technologies are likely to come into line, if they will be successful at all, are going to depend on what we invest today in research. And here I just want to show the tremendous growth that has occurred just in the last 5 years in research investments by high-income countries in bioenergy. Now this includes both biofuel and other biothermal energies, such as for electrical generation. But you can, and this is in constant 2010 dollars, you can see that after the oil shocks of the 1970s, there was an initial real interest in biofuel as renewable, as replacement substitute for fossil fuels. It kind of waned a little bit during the 1990s, but now we've seen this tremendous growth again. Now the bottom line there, Asia-Pacific region, that is primarily investment by Japan. We've seen big growth there and even renewed growth of about $100 million a year in R&D. This is by the government. This does not include investment by the private sector, which could even be more than this. The North American figure, that's primarily the United States, and the Europeans are also a major investor in this kind of technology. And of course, the technologies developed anywhere could be applied in other countries of the world. So this is really a global effort. So just to conclude, the future of bioenergy depends critically on innovation, on the success of those R&D investments, and it's going to depend on the price of alternatives. Doug talked repeatedly about the trade-offs between natural gas prices versus bio-coal prices and so forth. And it'll depend on policies. In particular, we have the kinds of subsidies that are offered for biofuel, but also the kinds of effective taxation that might be placed on greenhouse gas emissions through climate policy. Thank you.
Before collecting questions and comments from the floor, I'd like to ask Dr. Simler Topgots of the IFRI, International Food Policy Research Institute here in Washington. She's an expert in this area of biofuel I'd like to especially just ask her to just give comments before opening up the discussions to the floor. Thank you.
Is it okay if I do it here or?
Sure, you can just do it
Oh,
over here. Thank you.
As Dr. Masahiko Gema mentioned, I work at International Food Policy Research Institute, and within our mandate, we are focused on food security in developing countries, especially reduction of poverty and alleviation of hunger. So when we look at biofuels and energy markets, we are much more interested in the impacts they have on food security, crop prices, and especially demand for agricultural feedstocks coming from the first generation biofuel sector. So just before I came here, I looked at NYMEX futures prices to understand where the crude oil prices today, and it settled about $106 today for April 2012. And if you look at the futures market predicts that crude oil price is going to be about $100 for the next 2 years or so. So that definitely affects the energy security concerns that a lot of countries have, the budgetary concerns they have if they are crude oil net importers, and it makes biofuels a much more competitive energy source when you compare it to the crude oil price if their costs of production are really high. And I also checked the International Energy Agency's outlook for 2000 that they published in 2010, and they predict world total primary energy demand to increase between 2008 and 2035 at about 36%. Whereas this increase in demand, most of them it's going to come from developing countries such as fast developing economies like China and India. And energy demand for the transportation sector in the world will increase by about more than 40% in the same time period. And they predict that the biofuels use in the transportation sector will increase by more than 260%. So they predict that biofuels is going to become a bigger and bigger part of the picture for the transportation sector. But when you're looking at food security and agricultural sector, we are concerned about other aspects of it, not only about meeting growing energy demand, but about meeting growing food demand. So this expansion of biofuels has significantly changed the dynamics between the energy and the agricultural sector, whereas the agricultural sector was previously affected by energy sector primarily through the cost of production. Energy sector now impacts the demand for agricultural feedstocks. And now, the larger the biofuels sector has become, energy prices are also impacted by the agricultural sector through the feedstock prices and the cost of production and supply of agricultural-based biofuels, particularly in this transportation sector. And these linkages are expected to get stronger as biofuel production continues to rise. And we think that the volatility in the energy markets, especially volatility in the energy prices, is going to generate volatility in the agricultural commodity prices and therefore negatively affect food security. And just as a general comment for Japanese biofuel sector and renewable energy, since the scarcity of land in Japan necessitates Japanese industry and government focused on agricultural residues and non-agricultural feedstocks, this second generation biofuels, I think this will be a trend for many economies. I think a lot of countries have started with first generation biofuels, but they consider it as a stepping stone for the second generation biofuels, because even if you convert all the land, all cropland and produce biofuels from it, it will not be a significant enough margin to meet your growing energy demand in the world. And especially since greenhouse gas emission reductions and the argument for indirect land use change has become very prominent, the second generation biofuels will be the only way to go in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, we have like 25 minutes for further discussions. So I'd like to ask you to comment, raise questions. Since we have just limited time, I might just collect all the questions and comments, and then I might ask individual experts here to respond to your questions and comments. Could you identify yourself and then just be brief about your questions or comment? Please.
I have two short questions. One is for Dr. Yamaguchi and Dr. Tiffany. For Dr. Tiffany, you mentioned that the composition or ratio of the biomass energy in total energy resources is very much marginal at this time. What is your view how much that could be able to replace other resources in a significant way, or it's still marginal in the next 5 to 10 years? And the question to Dr. Yamaguchi is, you talked about all those agricultural products and wood-related resources, but how about solid waste biomasses from factories, the offices, and households? Does it replace the other energy resources? Because that could be converted to generation of electricity and to produce jet fuel and diesel fuel.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions and comments? Okay, well then I might ask both Dr. Yamaguchi and Professor Tiffany to respond to the comments made by both experts, plus additional 2 questions raised from the floor regarding the potential for the enhancement of, contribution of biomass-based energy with the total use of energy for the past and for the future 5 years or so, and then also the use of possibility for the use of solid waste. I think in case of Japan and then in case of US, if you are familiar. And then these are sort of technical issues, so you might not be expert on those, but as much as you have information or you can assess, I think it would be great.
Firstly, the prospects of the contribution of the biomass from the point of Japan, I think this depends on the technology. Actually, this is a matter of how we are going to use land. Actually, land can be used to utilize the solar energy from the sun. Also, the land part of the land can utilized to collect the wind power on the kinetic energy wind. Also, this can be utilized in the combination of solar energy and water and nutrition to produce bioenergy. So this is how we are going to combine these as an optimal way. In my view, we are not yet reached to the point to find the best way. We are still struggling, in terms of the commercial base. At this moment, some in terms of the energy conversion efficiency, already the PV has already surpassed the bioenergy. But bioenergy still has the advantage to store. So, in my opinion, if we could succeed in technological advance in solar power and wind power and some energy, we had better not to depend on the bioenergy. But if we could succeed in terms of the point of bioenergy, to get some very fast glowing glasses to utilize the solar energy and the store the CO2, I mean carbon, then we have a chance to depend more on bioenergy. This is also the cellulose. The second generation cellulose is also the option, but we have to think from the point of not only biomass but also other potential of the renewables. That is my answer for the first question. The second question to the solid waste. Solid waste. Actually, solid waste is already used in Japan to produce the biofuels. Also, to produce the electric power. That is my answer. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's a great question. And when you're thinking about the level of utilization of biomass that will occur in Japan, I think very closely about what are the costs of the alternatives. And right now, with this big gap you have in electric power production, I expect that the fleet hauling LNG is very busy. This is essentially your pipeline. And so that is going to be the cause of high prices for natural gas. And I would say that some biomass will be competitive, especially if it is used efficiently. And so I think there will probably be some entrepreneurs who will be looking at the thinning of trees and making some utilization from that standpoint. The key will be your own policy of the feed-in tariff. Say, well, is there a good opportunity for a local community to use some of that thermal energy and generate some power? So these things take a little time, they take a little organization, but I think they should have some attractiveness and maybe a good local investment opportunity. Biomass energy has the advantage of being firm power, firm electricity. You can't do everything with PV when you want to. So it's hard to build that kind of capacity and resiliency from some renewables. So that's an advantage. And that's indeed why we looked at using corn stover to run corn ethanol plants, because there was a very reliable demand for that steam. And the utilities were attracted to the idea of, well, this could be some firm power that could back up our substantial amounts of wind power that we have in places like Minnesota and the Dakotas.
Thank you. I might wish to ask Dr. Yamaguchi regarding the feasibility of the use of, well, not corn stover, but some form of crops as a source for energy and heat, and then also use of wood pellets. We have some cases we find in some township in Japan already using wood pellets for heating and creating, I don't know whether it's for energy, electricity generation, rather more heating, I guess. So, and then also bio-coal blending technology. Do we find possibility in Japan to adopt these things? Well, we see some examples, but can you expect many townships to adopt such a technology for their own use?
Yeah, of course, I expect and I want them to utilize the biochip and their own, the locally available plant, like a tree and some other agricultural residue, whatever. I think once they found they could supply their own source of energy, that is the starting point to put their own effort for the innovation and to utilize the locally available technology. I want to say some example. That is in case of Myanmar. Actually, in Myanmar, there is no electric power there, and they try to electrify some village, but they don't have anything, but just only a small piece of book to to refer, and they invented the gasification plant by trial and error, and this is very primitive, but this is something the example of local effort, but they try to innovate something led by needs. If we think we need heat, we need electric power without other option, we will try to everything to utilize our resources available, our surroundings. That is the point, and hopefully Japan, I think we have the experience of long time technological innovation, so I believe we can do that.
If I may ask, it seems that in case of Japan, national government is leading all these options. They invest money in these research projects and then experimental projects. In case of the US, not only the federal government, but also state and then city governments, they're really keen on developing regionally available resources use for electricity and heating generations. So do you think that Japan could really ask individual local governments to really involve in, or not only local governments, but local businesses to involve in this type of energy generation or heating generations?
In terms of technology, that I said that is yes, but in terms of the real feasibility, it's up to the economics, and hopefully, I mean, in reality, if we think about maybe several years, or maybe 5 or 6 years, really depend on the policy, and hopefully, if the feed-in tariff could be higher, some threshold, I believe. Depend on the township, depend on the community. I think many communities hopefully could succeed, show the successful example to the whole Japanese community. That is my expectation, and maybe some of them could show us something, the innovative one, and hopefully we could have some insight from that success to the whole Japan and hopefully to other Asia.
Okay, sure. And then, how should Japan take this challenge regarding recovering these tsunami-affected areas? Your map shown that these tsunami-affected areas are basically agricultural areas, and they had a potential for the use of biomass-based resources. So now the resources are damaged. How would you, and then money for recovery is available. How should these areas do regarding the energy dependency or the use of a biofuel? Do you have any idea?
There are so many ideas. I cannot say. I cannot distinguish. I can point out just only one. Actually, the land that devastated by tsunami has the potential for everything. So as I said, that is not only for the bioenergy, but also the other potential, not only for the energy, but also the food or maybe some other purposes. But if we think about energy, actually, desperately we need energy as a whole in Japan. So I think that although the food security, self-sufficiency going down, but food is something we can import at this moment. But something the energy also we can import that this cannot be solved within a month or a year. We need some lead time. So we at this moment, the immediate need is energy. So that is something that I think the local area of that tsunami suffered places, they could they should what to say, cultivate as the source of value.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
Mr. Tiffany, I'm a little confused about the trade-off between crops for food and stover for energy. Is it that you can't grow food crops and use the stover for energy? Can you only use that if you're raising the corn for ethanol?
Well, that's a great question. Now, that stover is available for any corn that's produced. So there are some people who would harvest it and feed it to especially beef cows, and it's used for some bedding, but it's largely underutilized. It is available for all corn, not just the corn that makes its way into the ethanol markets.
So the ethanol, the reduction in food availability is due entirely to producing corn for ethanol, is that right?
And that's only partially. You know, that corn may travel through an ethanol plant, and the starch may be converted to ethanol, but the protein and the fiber and the oils are available, and those are typically fed as well. So that's a third of the mass of that corn is a feed. So anyway, that's something.
Oh, but then why does it have to depress the cost of food?
Depress the cost of food?
Yeah, you're saying that the more we use corn for ethanol, the less food there is.
Well, there's
Or
some.
did I misunderstand that?
I don't believe I made that statement. I'd say that there's, I guess people are talking about, is there a competitiveness because there's an attractive price for corn? And there's an attractive price for corn in part because there is demand for making fuels out of it.
Thank you.
And would you like to add to that, Aniki? Okay.
Any comments? All right, please.
Well, again, this is Yuki. Dr. Yamaguchi, you mentioned a couple of times about innovation and the involvement of the local communities. How does this initiative for commercialization of the biomass help to motivate the local community to get involved in or to advance innovations? And whether there are any other commercialization teams or initiatives for other alternative energies?
The importance or the significance of that team is the integration of the efforts of different ministries. So from that point, I think that the effort could be very effective. But fundamentally, whether local people could initiate their own effort for the biomass energy, it will depend on really they can get some benefit from that effort. The team will succeed to integrate the effort of the ministry, but I think it is not enough. Probably as our government is preparing feed-in tariff for the biomass, I think that is the critical role to whether they really could succeed or not. But the team will convey the technological what to say. I think I believe they can facilitate the best technology to transfer to the local when they could believe they could get some benefit from feed-in tariff. That is my expectation. But I don't think that the team itself can succeed only by their own team's effort.
This feed-in tariff is very important, and I just think back to some of what I've heard from people in Germany, for example, with respect to their wind energy. And with their feed-in tariff, they have a certainty of a price, and that price will have some duration. And that's probably the structuring of this opportunity is very important, so that it will reduce the risk for people to make these investments. Will this be 15 years at a favorable price? And there's a round of bidding, and then the next year they'll open it up again, and there'll be another round of bidding for a feed-in for a price for power that would be produced from biomass. And that's where there gets to be a comfort level for the investors to build this capacity and to take the risk to make power a different way.
But I think I have some concern. Actually, feed-in tariff is not the best solution. Actually, because feed-in tariff is designed to give profit to the people. But so if the level of feed-in tariff, that is the case in Germany. Actually, they will produce energy, not food. They will use they want to utilize some agricultural product which is used for food, and they will convert it to utilize for the energy. That is possible. So that I don't know the real consequences of that if that is happen. But in case of Germany, that happened. But at this moment, the impact is not so significant. But I don't know what will happen in case of Japan. That is a little. I think for me, that is some concern.
Yeah, we are almost 3 o'clock. Any last comment or question? All right.
This is for Dr. Tiffany. Can you elaborate further on the interaction between the corn stover removal rate and the corn yields in Minnesota? If you have a little bit of experience, because at what rate it becomes lower?
That's a good question, because there's been a lot of discussion about what is the appropriate level of removal of corn stover. And there have been a number of studies that say, well, what is important here is preservation of a certain amount of soil organic carbon. And some of that carbon has been in the soil since the last ice age went away, before settlement. There's amounts of carbon that have been there a long time. And if in the process of removing more biomass, there's less soil organic carbon available for microorganisms, some of that will be released into the atmosphere as CO2. And so the important thing is to keep feeding a new supply of this biomass in. And as the soils have been broken and brought into production in the Midwest and the prairie states, there was, first of all, a certain amount of release that would happen. But then the soils reached an equilibrium with their soil organic carbon. And there was a level of removal and, putting back of the organic matter. So the best research seems to say that in our area that 35% of the corn could be removed every year the corn is produced. And so some people would do 70% and then leave that field alone. So they would maybe be removing as much as 3 or 4 tons per acre with no very minimal change to soil organic carbon. And that is a very, very important consideration.
Thank you. I'm glad that we had 2 excellent commentators to follow up with 2 excellent presentations. As Keith pointed out, that innovations, prices, alternatives, and also policy options, and then also similar pointed as similar pointed out the cost of production of biofuels. These are the critical elements of critical determinants for the future use of bioenergy, based resource based energy in Japan and in Asia. So I think these comments summarizes sort of perspectives which we face in Asia, Japan, and the US. I was very glad that today we were able to show a sort of example of the collaboration between Japan and the US in the area of academic exchange of ideas. So this served as an example of the usefulness of the USJI over here. So thank you very much for your interest and then coming over here and then your attention and continuous support of activities here. Thank you.